What's happening? It's your boys Rashid and Justice here on Beer in the Conversation, world's #1 show for comprehensive barbershop talk.
Mm-hmm.
How you doing today, Justice?
I'm good, man. How are you?
It's a good life, man. I can't complain at all. Can't complain. Just, trying to let it all soak in.
Same here, man. Just taking it one day at a time. Just every day, minor improvements to life.
Cheers to that, man. I think it's important for all of us to make sure that we take the time to enjoy our days and make sure that we're letting it all, flow through us and not knock us down,
Absolutely. Speaking of which, the host Laris, who generally is hosting, he is not here. He is, as he would say, is on a sabbatical for mental health purposes, and we totally salute and respect that. Your mental, if the mind's not right, the body's not right, and vice versa. If the body's not right, the mind's not right. So it all is health related, and shout out to him for having the courage to step away, so to speak.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself, brother.
So you and I had some time to talk before we got started, and today's topic is, we're going to go into a couple of different topics, but we'll start with, we were talking about individuals in the entertainment business that haven't gotten their flowers, at least from a large media perspective. Obviously you have your Beyoncés of the world, your Dr. Dre's. It's not just exclusive to black artists, but your Michael Jacksons, Lord have mercy, Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley. But there are artists out there who are great too, or at least who helped perpetuate and further the genre of certain sects of music, and that's what we want to start with. So the first artist that comes to mind for my generation is Roscoe Dash. I don't think that Roscoe Dash, we're here in Atlanta, we're broadcasting from Atlanta. I think that even to Travis Porter, to an extent, I when you look at the evolution of rap, and especially rap in Atlanta, those guys were, they were ahead of their time, honestly, the way I see it. What about you? What says you growing up, or are there any?
I mean, from an Atlanta standpoint, I think of guys like Success and Effect. And this must have been like 1989, 1990. Mm-hmm. They had this track called Roll It Up. And the whole track was just like, roll it up, my nigga, roll it up. I'm with it. And like, that's a whole track. And so the whole thing is like this conversation between a dude and a drug dealer trying to convince a drug dealer to stop selling drugs.
Really?
And that's what it was. Back in those days, you still had, little crack epidemic still hanging around back in those days. And it was a big thing, and a lot of rap. That was also not far away from like self-destruction. We're all in the same game, and that was a thing. That was the hip hop community. They took it seriously to like have those types of messages. Which, how far the mighty have fallen.
Yes.
So I remember them like Raheem the Dream, Kilo Ali, like all those guys, man. Like Shy D, even though he's not really from Atlanta, but close enough.
I've heard his name mentioned in a Jermaine Dupri record, which I know Jermaine Dupri is like one of the godfathers of, at least from my understanding, one of the godfathers of Atlanta rap. And funny enough, I actually went to high school with his daughter. Shout out to her, Shania. But nonetheless, I remember, I think it's in Welcome to Atlanta. I don't know if it's in the original or the remix, but he says that name, Shy D, but I don't know who that is.
MC Shy D. he was mostly known for this one song called "Shake It." It was like, "Come on, shake it, come on, shake it." Like that was like huge down here, and I think it was even like, I mean, they was playing it on MTV too. So, but he was like based in Atlanta when that came out, and I mean that's a big down south track, you know. I mean, as far as like God, I don't know. I mean, JD feels like third generation Atlanta to me.
Sure.
Like, I mean, obviously he played a tremendous role in like putting Atlanta on the map.
Yeah.
And I think he did sign Shadi to So Def at some point.
Eventually, right?
Yeah. I mean, wait, yeah.
When he was Albert Pujols, right?
The California Angels, right? Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
And I think he signed MC Light too. And then, you know, I know he made a few of those. And I mean, the record labels kind of do that. And a lot of times they sign these people, they never release a record or even a single or anything like that.
Hell,
but I mean,
Taylor Gang had signed Juicy J, you know, after he had great success as a, you know, with 3 6 Mafia. Was Khalifa, you know, a decade or decade and a half later, Juicy J, who's known for obviously 3 6 and that being like kind of Memphis's 90s, early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, they were. I mean, I think a lot of people knew them as, well, you know,
raunchy. Man.
Well, it was like, I think early on the thing was that like Bone had like jacked them, like, because they was doing that whole like quasi satanic chanting and all that sort of stuff. And
when you say Bone, you mean Bone Thugs and Harmony?
Yes.
Do you so you're saying like people were saying Bone Thugs and Harmony, Jack 3 6, really?
3 6 Mafia, yep.
Because they were Ohio, right?
Yep, they were Ohio. And I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I felt like it was, I mean, certainly the whole chanting thing or whatever, I mean, I guess there's something to be said for that. I felt like Bone was different enough. I mean, they brought enough novelty to the table. And obviously they had like Ruthless Records behind them and Eazy-E. And so, you know, they definitely had a more direct path. And I mean, I think, you know, 3 6 was cool too. I mean, it was all good. But yeah, and I think it culminated in some sort of fight or something at some point, which like literal fist fight. But I think they squashed it all and they are all cool, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny. They actually, now that you bring that up, they did a versus, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, maybe they had one back then, well, in the 2000s or late 90s, but basically, recently, obviously, you know that you're familiar with versus, right?
Yeah, the Instagram thing.
Yeah,
I've never seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
So basically, versus, I think I could be wrong, but I think it was created by Timbaland and Swiss Beats, and it's where essentially they kind of get, you could say artists on the back end of their careers, or just artists that basically they're known, but they essentially, it's kind of like a boxing match, but with their music. Right, so the biggest one that they had in Atlanta was Jeezy and Gucci, and basically they had it in Magic City. They changed
Of course they did.
They changed the decor. Apparently, I mean, the National Guard was out there because if you know I'm joking when I say that, but basically they were like armed security guards for both parties because basically since the record Icy, from my understanding, which is kind of what I think that's what initiated the beef between those two artists, Jeezy and Gucci.
Some long running beef.
Yeah, and obviously there was stuff that had transpired in real life. I mean, so they say, right? I mean, it's all entertainment, but you know, apparently, Jeezy sent minions, you know, to Gucci's house, and Gucci had killed one of Jeezy's people. I mean, this is the and out of self-defense. This stuff is actually documented. I mean, nobody knows. It's not documented by like, you know, police or the courts that Jeezy was
documented in the streets.
Yeah, right. And it's been talked about in records. So long story short, they had their banter and yeah. So that's essentially what Versus is. And Bone Thugs and 3 6, they did one against each other, and you know, man, this stuff some stuff transpired on stage, and I think is his name Ugly Bone? No, or Who's the light? I'm sorry, Crazy
Busy,
Bone.
crazy. Okay.
All right, he's the lighter one.
Ah, man, it's been so long, man.
Okay.
I couldn't tell.
Well, one of them threw a microphone at Juicy J, and this is like literally in 2021 when they did this.
Yeah,
So
because
this is,
I know that verse was like a COVID thing, right?
well, yes, the height of it was yes.
All right.
The height of it was COVID because people weren't getting out, no concerts. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so no, that's interesting.
That is interesting. I wish I cared enough to go back and look at that.
Yeah, it's on camera. You know how social media is, man. It wasn't anything I was searching for, but obviously, the digital age that we live in,
sure,
violence and negativity is what spreads. So of course that made it to the top.
Of course.
So.
And that, of course, that's all. I mean, even before social media, the whole thing about the media was that if it bleeds, it leads, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the first thing you see, somebody getting shot on it. And before you hear about the good stuff, you got to see the bodies, So it's something that's been built into the medium for a while. So yeah, I mean, those are like Atlanta dudes. I always have to give a shout out to Del the Funky Homo Sapien, who I don't think gets enough credit. For what he's done. Del is actually Ice Cube's cousin.
Really?
Yeah. And his first album, I Wish My Brother George Was Here, I believe was produced by Ice Cube. But I think his bigger influence was really through hieroglyphics. And his style, had that very stop-start staccato type style with all the internal rhyming, was a thing that those guys really brought to the mainstream and had a big influence on Outkast. I mean, that Outkast style on the Southern Playalistic album is very much a Hyro inspired style. They eventually evolved into something much more refined, and even you read the linear notes on Southern Playalistic, they shout out Hyro.
Really?
Yes. And so, and I mean, I think Del is really he's like the center of Hyro. He's that whole kind of universe kind of revolves around him. And he also did, what I think, one of, if not my favorite album of all time, which is Deltron 3030 with Dan the Automator and Kid Koala. And those guys actually worked with Damon Albarn to create that Gorillaz. Did you ever listen to that band? It's like a cartoon band called Gorillaz.
Yes, I do. From my understanding, I mean, I actually have one of their songs. I don't, for whatever reason, I don't know off the top of my head the name of the track, but I know that they had anime. Is it 4 of them?
Yep.
The album, the song that I'm referencing, it's 4 animated people on the front of the. I think that's the album cover.
Yeah.
But I could hum the melody, but I don't think anybody wants to hear me sing. So, yes, I am very familiar with them.
Yeah, that first Gorillaz album. He's the rapper on that album. He's a rapper for the Russ the drummer.
Yeah.
He's the rapper who does all the lyrics for Russ the drummer. And then I think they moved on to the next album, and then started bringing in more rappers and that sort of stuff. And it's all good, but that crew got together there. Then they after they did Deltron 3030. But the Deltron 3030 album is just this really awesome sci-fi concept album. They did a sequel to it in 2013 called Event 2. That was just really just high quality. Dan the Automator is one of the greatest hip hop producers ever, in my opinion. Just super detailed, rich, interesting tracks that he laid down. And Del has a really intricate style, and he's just at the top of his game especially on Deltron 3030. He's still doing very well on Event 2, but he's just a master MC in my opinion. And I'm a big fan of his. And I'll throw one more name out there and I'll show it back to you. Because I also think of Exhibit, who Exhibit's in this weird place because you can't say that he never got no, love.
I know Exhibit for Pimp My Ride.
Right.
Straight up. And then I know him on one feature, literally. I can name one feature. It was Explosive. Okay. Dr. Dre's Explosive. Yeah. But growing up, literally, I'm from Atlanta, fucking, excuse my language, from the suburbs, really. Right. I'm not even from fucking Atlanta. I'm from the suburbs of Atlanta. And basically, when I Exhibit, Pimp My Ride.
Yeah. And that's how it is for most people. But Exhibit used to be part of this crew called Alcoholics. Those cats were. I mean, there was a time like around a time like Death Row was big or whatever on the West Coast, man. There were some ill MCs out there.
100%.
And I mean, even these guys that you take as a joke, like you think of like Skilo, like I wish it was a little bit taller. Man, that cat had skills, man. You listen to his album, like
I like that song,
dude,
though.
yeah. And I mean, I'm not talking that. I mean, it's kind of a play song, but that was the thing. Like those cats were not on no gangster like shooting motherfuckers type stuff. They were on some like
Real
being clever and being playful, making fun of themselves, that sort of thing. And so and it was a whole different world, and that just wasn't the West Coast style that blew up, but it was there, and it was great, and it was really creative and inventive, and I feel like those guys deserve a lot of love. And so Exhibit came out of one of those crews, and the thing about Exhibit, if you go back and listen to his stuff, like Exhibit, in my opinion, is like one of the most like technically masterful MCs. Like you listen to him rap, you understand every syllable.
Yeah.
Like he does not chew on any words. He's just from a technical standpoint. Like if you've ever like rapped, I mean, and I don't necessarily mean like a song comes on and the lyrics, whatever. But if you ever had to like write a rap,
yeah,
and you've ever had to like control your breathing and all that sort of stuff, and like it's not easy to do it well.
All right. So, quick question: have you ever?
Yes.
All right, same
Yes.
here. So we're in the same boat. We've both recorded tracks. So all right. So as far as Exhibit is concerned, I can still. I remember. I guess the bar or lyric. He said no. Actually, he was on Explosive, and then he was on What's the Difference by Dr. Dre too. Which it's like, what's the difference between me and you?
Yeah, that's right.
And he posed the question. He said about 4 ounces or 3 ounces. He said, what's the difference between me and you? He said 4 bank accounts, 3 ounces, and 2 vehicles. But basically, I don't know why that line always stuck with me, but I'm gonna have to check him out.
Check him out,
Yeah.
I mean, he did a track. So I'll tell you the tracks are like. So he did a track called Foundation, where he's rapping about like his child. He did a track called What You See Is What You Get, which has a real fun video. The video's worth checking out too. He did Paparazzi. He did a track called Paparazzi, which is really good. And then he's on like, what's that? Bitch Please. Because he was on Death Row, so like that was when he started to get exposure, when he was on Death Row. But like he had a lot of stuff out before that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check.
And it was high quality stuff.
It's kind of funny, and I know we got to stay on topic, but it's like when I think about what you're telling me with Exhibit, I kind of almost like a lot of people, even Joe Rogan, the podcast god, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Most people know him for Fear Factor. Like that's how I know him, and obviously I know that he's done really well. I love his podcast, but he's done really well. He does a great job of interviewing people, and then more importantly, he's not closed-minded, right?
Right.
But basically, to liken him to Exhibit, those are two guys in the 2000s who kind of, in a weird way, you're giving me the backstory of Exhibit. Essentially, he even got to a point where he could get that show because it wasn't fluke. Essentially,
right.
He was talented.
Yeah,
essentially,
absolutely.
And somebody
So it's not an accident.
liked him. Right? It's like, all right, his music's good, and this dude obviously he fits what it is we're trying to push in terms of the West Coast and customizing cars and So, out of curiosity, have you ever heard of? So basically, to draw it back to the Spotify comment. So basically, I've got a bunch of artists that were suggested from listening to those Eazy-E records and Tupac, the Biggie, the Mount Rushmore of West Coast rap, so to speak. Celly Cell, but there's this one group called RBL Posse. Man, I actually really enjoy their music, and when I hear some of the songs and some of the samples that they use, I'm like, man, like how in the hell did these guys not But the limelight is so narrow.
Yeah, there's only so many. Yeah, and I mean back then, like, you know, you just had so much more gatekeeping, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you were gonna get played, you had to be on. You know, number one, there was a whole like payola thing, right? Which is like to get your record played on the radio. Like the record companies are like paying DJs to get
Right.
these records out there, and like the average person can't compete with that.
No.
And so like here in Atlanta. You know, you had like, well, in the 90s, like in Atlanta, you didn't, it wasn't until like 95 that Hot 97 hit. And before Hot 97 hit in 95, you could not hear hip hop on the radio during the day in the city.
Really?
Like V103, I mean, like top 8 at 8, you hear some rap, but that was like it. I mean, maybe, you know, Friday nights, Saturday nights, whatever, but it wasn't until Hot 97 hit, and they were like all hip hop.
Yeah.
And they just really kind of changed the game in the city. I've just lost my train of thought. What were you saying? Oh, you're talking about RBO. Yeah. So what I was going to say is that, and they were just all playing the mainstream stuff. And again, you watch MTV, you watch BT. I mean, it's all mostly mainstream. So Rap City, you know, they got a little bit into the underground stuff. But the place that you wanted to be to like really hear like that sort of stuff was like college radio.
Yeah.
And like 88.5 out of Georgia State had this show every Sunday night, a Rhythm and Vibe show. And I mean, just all the bangers. That's where you went to like hear all the real. That's where you got all the good West Coast stuff, all the good New York, down south, whatever. Like Talib Shabazz. Shout out to Talib Shabazz, man. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's still alive, but Talib Shabazz and those guys, like, and like I told you, I did rap, and like the day I knew that I had arrived was when. Me and my group were on 88.5. Like, we got on there, and they played our stuff. We even got in rotation on 88.5. And so, like, that was when I was like, man, I don't need to do nothing else.
Right.
This is it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I almost am under the impression that people are getting rock, like, in a weird way. Like, most people's music taste is, like, mainstream, which, I mean, it makes sense, right? But
Sure.
I think as you get older, you grow to understand, like, that things are controlled, so to speak.
No.
Oh, go ahead.
Did I not answer that?
Oh.
Did I hit the wrong button? Sorry, somebody was calling. Whoever it was that called, just give us a call back. I clearly don't know how to operate a phone, so holler back at us. Go ahead, Justice.
But yeah, so basically, again, I'm years removed from that era. I mean, I was born in '95, so thank God that I do have older siblings and brothers, and the influence of their friends and their peers, such as people like yourself. And man, there was
All right,
just,
what button do? Oh, answer. I wish you didn't answer button. What's up? It's been a conversation.
What's good? It's your boy Monk ATL.
I knew this call was coming. What's going on with you, bro?
On standby. What's up, my brothers? What's going on?
what's going on? What's
Chillin',
going
man.
on?
Hey man, Rashid, as always, you are you are a beacon of knowledge when it comes to the West Coast rap. I'm waiting on you to mention Sir Mix-a-Lot. That's the only reason why I'm calling.
He did before the show, believe it or not. So she.
I knew that. I knew this was coming. I mean, look. I mean, just real quick. I'm a big Sir Mix-a-Lot fan. I know that's not a very popular position to take because of where Sir Mix-a-Lot's career went late. But early on, man, when he was in Seattle and he did Swas and he did Seminar, I mean, those are great albums, man. And me, like a middle school kid in Macon, Georgia, I mean, he was big enough that I was getting his stuff from Seattle. You know what I'm saying? And it was banging, man. And he got pretty good rotation on Rap City and on Yo MTV Rap. So I mean, he was a well-known quantity, and I just feel like it is a crime. So the reason Bronze brings this up is because we got in an argument one day, and it may have even been on the show.
The spirited debate, and you learned me. I got in monk mode, and I became a student. So, yes.
Fair enough. Argument's probably not the right word, but I do get triggered sometimes when people call Sir Mix-a-Lot a one-hit wonder, because it is my belief that he had hits. I mean, look, Baby Got Back was a hit. It's like a top 1% kind of song, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to success. And so if we define like a hit like that, then okay, sure, he's a one-hit wonder. But when I think of a one-hit wonder, I think of a person I can only name one song they ever did.
Right.
Right. That's just, and with Sir Mix-a-Lot, and maybe this just is the case with a lot of people that were hip hop heads like I was. You know what I'm saying? That weren't watching Yo MTV Raps.
But and not to, I'll be brief, but I kind of feel like that is kind of the joy of that era. Y'all really had to, search through the nooks and crannies. It was all by ear, so your senses, in a weird way, I don't know. It kind of seems like from a census standpoint, you really were able to kind of select what was hot and what was not. Whereas today, we're kind of force fed what's hot. Honestly, there have been so many songs when you first hear them by artists, you're like, man, that is fucking garbage. And then they just keep spinning it.
It grows on. It can grow on.
It's just well, you know what? Sipping codeine isn't that bad, actually. I've never done it. You know what I'm saying? But fucking drinking codeine and popping perks, man. You know what? He's kind of onto something with that one.
I mean, who needs a liver and kidneys anyway? The rest of your life, you know?
Exactly. I mean, fuck school. I mean.
Right. It's funny to hear you said it, because I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like nowadays, at least, you have way more outlets now than you did. You got SoundCloud now. You know what I'm saying? Where I mean, back in the day, in order to share your, number one, it's way easier to even produce music now than it was back in the day. If you got a laptop with a halfway decent microphone, you can throw some loops together, and it ain't nothing. Back in the day,
the computer kind of does it for you in a weird way. At least the Apple computer. I forget the
software, Acid, software, and GarageBand, all that stuff, man. It makes it really easy to make music. Back in the day, I mean, that's probably equivalent. Back in the day, you may have just rapped over instrumental, off a maxi single or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if you want to do your own stuff, man, it was a lot more expensive to get a sampler. Mm-hmm. At a minimum, you needed a sampler. Mm-hmm. Things are over $1,000, man.
Drum machines.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that now, it's easier to produce music. It's easier to share music. It's, like I said, I can't claim to have no great ear for music. I was watching UMTV Raps. Sir Mix-a-Lot was on UMTV Raps, which is MTV, which is what we were all watching back when back when it was about music. And so, anyway, what you got, Brian? What you want to add to this conversation?
So, I mean, look out here, y'all didn't need me. You gentlemen are doing just fine without Music Monk ATL this evening.
Well,
but you are Music Monk ATL, so I mean,
and we love to have you here.
Hey man, I am currently, I don't know, you guys know my mother had knee surgery. She is recovering quite well, but I have been, just to make sure she's good. And then preparing for the Talila Wajid World Lifestyle Natural Hair Show that I'm in, ending my leather project. So, I'm doing my thing. But when I got a phone call hearing that the topic was going to be music, I had to call in. Now, you know what I'm saying? But no, but seriously though, to your point, and I'm kind of coming in on the tail end of it, but the first interview that we did actually when it was Instinct Radio, we had a show and we interviewed Professor Griff. Yeah. We interviewed Professor Griff, and it was my first interview, but it was very it inspired me so much because Professor Griff is a legend, you know what I mean? Public Enemy, like a top 5 hip hop group, you know what I'm saying? Ever, and definitely a top 20 or 30 group in the history of music. Maybe not necessarily in sales, but one of the things that we talked about, one of the things that we talked about was the divide between the older generation and the newer generation, and what I'm hearing is like we have more opportunities, and it's almost like the newer generation has this ease of technology that they have access to, and they're doing a lot with it. But I think the sense of nostalgia from, you know what I'm saying, from some of our earlier musicians, some of our earlier staples in the music community, they know exactly what you mean. Like, you have to put in work to diversify your musical palette. Today, not so much. The underlying foundation of payola and force-feeding the masses like a particular pop or watered-down style of music has been going on forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the people that have a desire to want to learn about a natural curiosity, that's what they're going to do. They're going to, you know what I'm saying, like they're going to create a station on Spotify or on Apple Music based off of artists that they like, and then just go down the tunnel or throw a dart. You know what I mean? Like, throw a dart. So some of these artists aren't so unsung. Don't look for them to have features with people that you recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Find out who's the artist. Find out who's the next artist to be featured. You know what I mean? Like, I was like tripping on 5EO Foreign at first. I was like, who is this 5EO Foreign? But then when I heard him on Off the Grid, which is one of the best songs on Donda,
Mm-hmm.
he killed it. And he kind of had like a Pop Smoke kind of like that new kind of New York flow that he doing.
That drill.
Rest in peace. Oh, but once I started listening to him, I was like, this brother can really spit. So it forced me and inspired me to go in and just kind of find different things. So Exhibit is not just Pimp My Ride, although he will tell you, if you watch some interviews, he'll tell you how that ruined his life because
Really?
he was just a host. But yeah, because he was just a host. But people were really, really like coming at him like he was the one that was fixing the cars, and then the way that they were doing the cars was so absurd. Like putting cotton candy machines in the back of an old hoopty. It's a reason why they never showed engine work. 'Cause they didn't do no engine. You know what I'm saying? So what we're part of the generation where a lot of our musical heroes and stars and stuff like that, they started transitioning to other mediums, and we may not necessarily know them for what they're most known for because they fall into this pop culture world
Mm-hmm.
of reverence, stardom, and everything. So it's not that we want to ignore them. It's just kind of the avenue they choose to make. Like Tech Nine, to your point, Rashid, is one of the most technically gifted rappers in the game ever. But it's Tech Nine. He got the Midwest on lock. He don't need to go past the Mississippi.
Right.
Or the Sierra, or you know what I'm saying, or the Rocky Mountains, because he was able to, if you know Tech Nine, if you're a student of music, not an A+ student, but just a general, you know, observer of music, you're going to know Tech Nine.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to know that they're just highly respected. But if you're a lazy consumer, you will complain that there's not good music out. There's good music out. You're just not exploring it. You're only exploring what your palate is conditioned to. So
What they
I'm
put in your
rambling a
bowl.
bit. You said what now?
What your owners put in your bowl.
Right, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, eat this kibbles and bits. That's how I felt about Drake, though, y'all. Like Drake is an immensely talented artist, but for me, there are a lot more other singer, rappers, you know what I'm saying, or those hybrid artists. Like, to me,
Well, like who though? And like who? Just, I mean, I'm sorry. Name some. I'm personally curious.
For
well,
me,
how about we go with the originals? How about we go with CeeLo Green? How about we go with
that's what I was gonna say. CeeLo and Lauryn Hill are kind of the two original dual threats.
How about we go with the Mos Def? How about we go
Mos
with
Def
the
sings?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I've got some
that was
Mos Def
That
songs.
was a later thing. You ever heard what he says?
Yes, I love that song.
He's singing on that
I
song.
want black people to be free to
I mean, he's not blowing on it, but he sings on it.
You got to listen to The New Danger, which was mostly produced by Kanye West. It's Mos Def's second album. It's a neo soul. It's a hybrid album. It's got bangers on there, produced by Kanye. It's got soulful tracks. It's got introspective singing tracks. Like, so before we just anoint Drake, he got to get past Donald Glover before anybody, because Donald Glover is that dude.
He is.
You know what I'm saying? Your brother is calling me.
Oh,
I want if I can tag him in, but I don't think I'll be able to do. about this. So,
Well,
but
take
yeah,
that call,
like,
man. You can call us back. Because the man's calling you on sabbatical. Holla at our boy.
Right.
But I'll say this. I mean, I think Bron's brought up a couple of things I think are worth kind of unpacking a little bit. I think this conversation brought up a couple of things I think are unpacking that we kind of touched on, but we're getting a little deeper on. One is just like, how long life is and like how people reinvent themselves, and how, like a lot of when the OJ thing happened, a lot of people knew him from like the Naked Gun,
Right.
And from like Davis commercials or whatever, not necessarily for like football.
The Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. So, I mean,
USC.
So people, they reinvention is a thing. It's a thing that I think a lot of people do, and it's either reinvention like OJ. So there are two types of it. There's like the OJ reinvention where you kind of go into something very different, and then there's the just kind of like the exhibit reinvention, right?
Or Steve Harvey, maybe.
Sure.
I mean, I would say
comedy to even though
it's the same. I guess yeah. All right, maybe that one. All right.
It's an evolution, right?
Extremely raunchy content to America's top black TV host. Michael Strahan. How about that? Is that fair?
Yeah, no, that's considerable. That might be one of the more extreme examples.
Smashing heads on the football field to telling America good morning.
Yeah, man. That's
this guy did a terrible thing last night, and I'm here to tell you about it.
Yeah. And
I also think it shows
280-pound black dude you ever met. What'd you say, Bronx?
I was saying I also think it highlights how unrealistic we are with the images of the celebrities in our community. It doesn't really take much to like lose the juice in our community. No pun intended. We were just talking about OJ. But you're not. It's like you got to do it regardless. It's like because Rashid, and you know what I'm saying. All y'all know, like crossing over was, in hip hop, crossing over was not really a good thing. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like in some kind of way, it took away from the essence of what the movement was about to cross over. It wasn't about acceptance. So when you get in the late '90s, I mean, in the late '80s, early '90s, when you get like Vanilla Ice's, now Third Base was a cool group, you know what I'm saying? Like it was some other multicultural. Even Max Kellerman was rapping at that time, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was something about the street cred. Like we just got really caught up in the credibility, and in some ways it morphed our culture into the gatekeepers of what's cool. But it also made us very, very susceptible to programming.
Do you think that was? I'm sorry, not to interrupt you, but you made a great point there. Do you think that was intentional in a weird way, or do you think that just is what people flock to?
Going back to Professor Griff, this is why this man. If I'm gonna try to get his contact and reach out to him and get him out here so we can talk again. But he did a video that's circling around social media, and it talks about how hold on. Actually, this is your brother again. I'm gonna click over and I'm gonna come him in. And I'll get on 1 second.
All right. So the other thing I was gonna say that kind of came up was
all right, everybody. Larry, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. How y'all doing, man?
Hey,
good, man. What's going on? I mean, what kind of sabbatical is this?
Right, you know what I'm saying? Sabbatical. We don't do conference call on sabbaticals.
It's like I go on vacation and show up at the office.
Right, he's right.
Yeah, well, I think I still have to do my part to kind of try to oversee, just because this is important to all of us. And I want to say I'm really enjoying it, man, just from this side. I'm kind of learning some pointers and how it can be, you know what I mean, enhanced in a number of different ways. But I would like to say this. While I think that everybody is on point with their perspective, and maybe I missed a couple of things. Cannabis, Big L, just trying to think. Was Arrested Development brought up?
No, but they could be, because that 3 Grammy run off that first album is unsung and actually served as one of the catalysts for the Atlanta music scene. So yeah, definitely Arrested Development.
For
Okay,
sure.
cool. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like they're like Generation 2 Atlanta. Like I talked about how JD was Generation 3. I felt like Arrested Development was Generation 2. Even though Crisscross came out around the same time that Arrested Development came, so maybe I need to rethink that.
Do y'all feel like 8 Ball and MJG got their credit?
Yeah. I mean, I
absolutely.
Are they Atlanta or Memphis?
They are Memphis.
Okay.
They're South.
They are
Okay, so I didn't know our subgroup was.
No, it's not about Atlanta. No, I was just curious because I know that 8 Ball did that song with somebody called Sundown, PA.
Oh, well, that's PA, and so then PA
But 8
didn't
Ball's
get
on
his
the song,
either.
right? Yeah.
PA is actually KP the Great and I always forget his name, but KP Karan Prather is one of the biggest, most historic music execs ever. You know what I'm saying? But in order for him to do that, he understood what Outkast was. So because Organized Noise was actually promoting PA at the time.
I remember that first PA track with the heavy bass line. I can't remember the name of it. It's playing in the background of one of those Outkast tracks.
It actually, man, I want to say on it's on Southern Playalistic. You can hear it.
Yeah, exactly. It's in the background of one of the like skits. I can't remember the name of it.
Right.
Okay, Smiles and South Star. Did they get? I mean, I know they didn't have a big run, but does anybody remember Smiles and South Star?
I do remember them. But to Rashid's point, his earlier point, those were the artists that BET would sneak in every once in a while after school, and you know what I'm saying, on Rap City.
Okay, Big Punisher. Did he get his props?
Absolutely, because don't want to be.
Is he underground though? He's commercial, right?
Yeah, he came out. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there was a Big Pun life before I heard like I'm Not a Player, but so I'm not familiar. That was the first time I heard. I mean, he could spit though. I mean, obviously, especially given
he's
just
commercial.
particular constraints on his respiratory system. That boy could spit.
He killed it, and then if you know his story, you know he was a model before he got into an accident, and it caused him to gain all that weight.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either.
Yeah, so Pun was actually, because Pun is more talented than Fat Joe.
Oh, absolutely. That is obvious. Yeah.
Right,
I mean,
you know
so
what I'm
then
saying?
Terror Squad in general kind of got slighted, I guess. I mean, with the exception of Remy Ma, but then she got hers via acting. You know what I mean? So
all of the talent in Terror Squad lies with Big Pun. Everyone else is like B or below. Big Pun was the only A+ top tier lyricist in that whole camp. And I'm not like anybody else, but I've just been listening to what came out since Pun died. It's not comparable at all.
right, I agree. Yeah, I completely agree with that.
But
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The earlier thing that we were discussing was how Professor Griff talks about this book that highlights how the Jewish record company owners, they knew their Public Enemy and all of these other groups, the black positivity movement was coming, and they deaded it, and then you got NWA. He talks about it specifically. He talks about this, like this fork in the road between the conscious music, self-destruction, East Coast, West Coast, you know what I'm saying? It's all the same thing. Like, there was a lot of unifying music in the late 80s, early 90s before gangster rap came in. Even though gangster rap was around, it was mainly Ice-T. Mainly.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, well, I think we've had this conversation before, but I think that so who produced Ice Cube's first album?
Well, I know he wrote
Easy or Jerry
His
Heller?
first album. So his first album was an EP, which was it Kill It Will? And then he did America's Most Wanted.
Right.
I tell you who produced it. The Bomb Squad. Bomb Squad. Otherwise known as Chuck D, Rittenhauer. Not Rittenhauer, it's Chuck D. Who's the other guy? Hank Shockley. All the guys that produced Public Enemy. And we're all Public Enemy. Produced Ice Cube stuff. Like, I think Public Enemy, there was a clear affinity with all that bullshit that Ice Cube was talking in his early album, was explicitly endorsed by Public Enemy. And I think that, this shit's complicated too, right? Which is that, I know that Chuck D just saw Ice Cube as like a really talented writer, which he was. He was just writing about
Right.
bullshit. And maybe he thought that like taking it under his wing, he'd get him under control. I don't know. But I mean, is it possible that record company executives were plotting the demise of black culture through hip hop? I mean, anything's possible.
And that's what I was questioning.
I don't, but for me, it just seems more clear that like the like degradation of an art. So the trajectory of an art form is always down, right? That like and just think about the economics of things, right? The economics of like rap. So, because again, like we lament the fact that we went from like Public Enemy to like NWA. A lot of black people lament the fact that we went from the 70s love songs and uplifting black people to rap. You know what I'm saying?
One hell of a point.
So I'm just saying that, like, and so why did this degradation happen? Well, shit, it's a lot cheaper to produce rap. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just basic economics in the music industry. Like, even the stuff we call R&B then and now, then being like in the late 80s and now, like that stuff is way less produced than it was back in those days. You know what I'm saying? Like them beats, man, a lot of times they sampling hip hop. You know what I'm saying? For R&B songs. So I mean, I'm not gonna say, the Jewish record company conspiracy thing. I don't know, man. I mean, and that's what Griffith's known for, right? That's his thing. I think it's a lot easier than that. I don't think we have to go there in order to like explain what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And I also think, and I'll get off, but I do appreciate y'all allowing me to call in. But the beats are what save a lot of artists, and so the intention behind talking about a lot of the artistry and them not getting their just deserves is rooted in the idea of there are not a lot of good rappers now that are flourishing because of the production. And there were a lot of great artists that didn't have the right production backing. I'm going to say this. At the expense of being not quite understood, I was still saying, and I'm checking out, I'm going to let y'all do y'all thing, Tupac was probably the best rapper ever who didn't really get the real appreciation while he was alive.
I don't know, man. Go ahead, Ron.
Tupac was an icon before he died. Like he was icon. He was in the top.
Y'all gotta school me.
He was the biggest rapper on earth.
I really don't know.
Before he died.
So he was like basically he was Jay-Z, Drake, Kanye.
Absolutely,
Like,
him and Biggie.
To put it in perspective for me.
Yeah. Him and Biggie, that so All Eyes on Me, and what was the one before that? Me Against the World. Those were huge albums.
Because he was in prison, like he was in jail when he did. You know what I'm saying? When that one came out.
Those are huge albums.
After All Eyes on Me, like Me Against the World is really the album.
No, I agree. No, I think All Eyes on Me is a better. I think Me Against the World is a better album than All Eyes on Me. That's not. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I think it's a.
Okay.
We can have that conversation on a later show. We can have that debate.
I agree with you, Rashid. It is.
Okay. Well, if he got his flowers, he didn't get paid for them. If Soulja Boy is making more money than Tupac made, there's something terribly wrong with this.
Sure, and and that's an economic argument about agents and
they all
publishing
are now,
and all that
actually,
sort of stuff. So I mean, it's a fair point.
I mean, look at again. I know you got to go, but I mean, I don't know, right? I'm just a consumer of the music, right? I've made one record. Rashid has made some records, but essentially, and not even that matters, but in a weird way. But anyway, when you look at guys like Rick Ross purchasing, and I like Rick Ross, I mean I do, but when you start talking about, man, guys are purchasing Evander Holyfield's house and it's like a rapper, you're just like, damn, is Ross really like, is the money that sweet for him? Like, damn, like.
Or is Evander in that much trouble?
It's not, well, right. It's everything, that could just be a surface thing.
I don't want to undermine your point. It's a fair point you make.
But I guess what I'm getting at is it's all surface level stuff. I mean, you believe. Well, Jay-Z, look, in my generation of living, I mean, speaking just for me and what I've honestly consumed, Jay-Z is the greatest rapper that I've ever. To me, he's the GOAT for me. But Kanye is the greatest artist for me. I hate to say it.
Yeah, I obviously Jay-Z's a billionaire. Like he's been
nasty.
more successful than anybody. I think Jay-Z
saying the
is
mic,
crazy.
though. I'm saying just the mic.
I think he's crazy overrated. The only reason I say that is because it's hard for me to call somebody the GOAT when every damn record they complain about how they don't get enough love. I mean, I just feel like that's not a GOAT mentality.
Yeah.
So outside of that, I mean, I can't, his record sales, all that sort of stuff. And again, he's great on the microphone. He is no Kanye in my. I think Kanye is a much wittier, more interesting, much more diverse in topics rapper.
Production. He's
I don't even if you can leave the production out.
Really?
I feel like he is a just more interesting presence on the microphone than Jay-Z is.
I love that. Well, because here's the thing, and I'm sorry guys, but look, and with all, I know Kanye gets a lot of flack, but for what it's worth, what we know Kanye for, how he's popular, is that he is an artist, right? How you feel about him meeting with Donald Trump and getting on Pete Davidson online? That stuff's secondary. But as far as who his identity is tied to his music, right? So essentially, what I'm getting at is musically, and I'm glad you said it, but musically, man, I mean, Kanye is in the modern era of black men. I mean, this is a guy that never lied about selling cocaine and killing anybody and was able to be successful. That shit is so fucking impressive in the modern, to me, like to the 2000s rap, like just me growing up, for this guy to be as successful as he is without having to say, yeah, I killed a nigga. Excuse my language, but I killed somebody and I sold cocaine. It's impressive, man, as to be a black man to make it in that industry without having to rap about that. I mean, he's no LaCroix or Lecrae. I think it's Lecrae is his name, the Christian rapper. But
actually, ain't no Kanye, but I think, but Kanye is like a top 10 music act all time. Like he transcends rap.
100%. Fashion, the whole nine.
And the artist's lyrics go from being laughed at to being top 5 MC in the 40s.
That's right. Yeah, he's dope, man. I mean that Jesus Lord Part 2. Anytime you got a track on an album, and it's the name of the song is Jesus Lord, and you got, in addition to yourself, not saying what his religious affiliation is, you have 4 Muslims rapping on the track. That's impressive in itself.
It's unity.
You know what I mean? That's I mean, just the irony, the idea that you could have electronica and 3 of the Lot rapping and rapping at a. Let's check out that Jesus Lord Part 2. But, I mean, the name of the song is Jesus Lord Part 2, and he had 4 Muslims on there. I'm going to let y'all go. Shalom.
Yes, it's about that time anyway.
Peace, brother. Peace.
Good to see you. Hey, enjoy the rest of your time off, brother.
Thank you, both of you guys, for calling in.
Appreciate y'all. All right,
Yeah, no problem.
We're going to go ahead and take it home, y'all. Unless y'all want to put out a final thought before y'all get off the line.
No, man, great show, fellas. Great show.
Thank you.
Points, most thanks.
Brian, you want to talk about that show earlier? You want to talk about when that happens and where that's going to happen?
Yes, it's actually going to. We're looking at Saturday and Sunday at the Georgia International Convention Center. It's right there in College Park, right before you get to the airport. I'm in booth 850A. It's going to be a lot of beautiful natural hair sisters out there. Great, you know what I'm saying, like a family event, and of course me. Monk ATL Leatherworks, come out, support your boy, chop it up, man. We can finish the conversation right there on the floor, all right?
Hey, I want to add one thing. You said Talia Wajid. It's funny. I love her products, and I hate to freely market them, but, man, those are great products. It's actually what I've got in my hair right now, but amazing.
Mark, so they can come out and pick up some Saturday and Sunday and stop by and see me.
Yeah.
Holla at your boys. And your girl,
All right.
Talia.
Hey, man,
That sounds like a girl.
Man, love y'all, man. I'll see y'all
Peace,
soon.
brother.
Love you too, Black
Love
man.
you too.
Peace.
Peace.
Well, there we have it.
Yeah.
This was a great. I think clearly we opened up Pandora's box with this one, and we finished off until Monk called in. I'm glad he did, but RBL, and you kind of chuckled a little bit, but did you like them? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I remember them. Not a group I was super into.
Right, sure.
And the thing for me back then was I was listening to everything, man, and it was just hard to like. There was some things that I latched onto, some things I did, but I was familiar with a lot. I remember RBL Posse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the thing is just and the thing I was gonna say about Brian, I'll close with this, and you can close out whatever
Sure.
you'd like to close out with. Is that as we've kind of transitioned into this more information age, the kind of value of curation has become more evident. So we're coming from a highly curated world, where there are like, 3 channels, 3 anchors where you got your news from, and MTV and BET, and maybe the jukebox, where a lot of people got their music from.
VH1.
Yeah, VH1, yes.
They were
back in the day, they
after the
weren't.
fact, but
Yeah. Yeah, they were all like adult contemporary stuff, like back in like the 90s, without them even playing any rap. Or R&B for that matter, but just like Whitney Houston type stuff, I guess, like
Really?
pop stuff, yeah. But what's happened is that technology has transformed things to the point where everybody can do this stuff,
Pretty much.
and by eliminating gatekeepers does it opens the floodgates, right? Where they were like holding back most things to just like you said, the spotlight's narrow on what they've shown it on.
It's like who they chose in a
Right.
weird way.
But now it's a freaking, the floodgates have opened, and it's a freaking tsunami.
It's a game of 21.
Yeah, and so how do we, so now one service they provided was they did cut out a lot of bullshit, right? Now we got the bullshit to contend with too.
They did, but and honestly, this was a point I wanted to add earlier. So obviously, it'll never be perfect, right?
Sure.
But one thing that I've noticed today, and almost now, the issue with gatekeepers and just all those things is today it's kind of more of an image thing now, not so much because, like you said, technology has evolved. And, if somebody's got the money, I mean, hell, you could just be an entrepreneur who into any industry with money and say, well, hey, Dr. Dre, like, I'm not Interscope, well, excuse me, not Interscope, I'm not whomever records, but I have an artist that I want to buy a track from you. Well, how much is a beat? He'll say, okay, $1 million. Okay, I'll buy the beat. But here's the thing. This is what I'm getting at. Today, it kind of seems like the game has been diluted to a point to where it's an image thing. So more image, rather, like extreme image, which is, and I have no beef with Tekashi 6ix9ine. I'm not saying he's a good rapper, but I don't know what he is. But what I'm saying is it's a lot of gimmicks. Does that make sense? And basically, it seems like, just speaking for myself and my generation, and maybe especially the younger ones, it's all about it just would appear as if the music doesn't really matter because, man, at this point, hot beat's a hot beat. You know what I'm saying? And then you got good writers, you've got people. I'm just saying, it just seems like a very every day, because we consume so much digital media. I mean, whether that's, just that obviously is broad, but I mean, we're constantly stimulated by social media, TV, radio, your phone, work, job, pornography, whatever. It just seems like the more extremer, like the person that's going to push the envelope further is going to be the person that's successful.
Sounds like a good place to end it.
Yeah. So
thanks, everybody. East Point, smoke some dank.
protect your peace.